What's going on, everyone? Thank you so much for joining me today. Greatly appreciate it. Well, we've come to the end of 2023, and it's time to start taking a look at favorite whiskeys. These are going to be my top 7 rye whiskeys of 2023. Let's talk about those today on the My Bourbon Journey Whiskey Review channel. Let's do this. All right, so we are at the end of the year, and it's time to take a look at the top whiskeys. These specifically are going to be my favorite rye whiskeys of the entire year. Rye whiskey is a category that at times can be a little bit difficult, but I think I've got a really solid 7 bottles of rye whiskey that I think are really somewhat, for the most part, available, and ones that I think most people had an opportunity to get throughout the year. So I don't have anything on this list that I would say is super highly allocated. So this list is going to be fairly tight from the standpoint of bottles, for the most part, were again available throughout 2023. So let's go ahead and take a look at my number 7 rye whiskey of 2023. Still Austin Cask Strength Rye Whiskey. Absolutely fantastic whiskey. Never would have thought in a million years that I would have a Texas whiskey in my top ryes of 2023. What this whiskey really represents is, I think, in a nutshell, what the brand itself represents is the ability to allow others to enjoy whiskey from Texas without having such a specific flavor profile. They have really broadened the horizons, I think, for their whiskey, this one in particular, to make it much more enjoyable to the masses without it being singled out to be just something from the state of Texas. So my number 7 rye whiskey of the year from Still Austin is their Cask Strength Rye Whiskey. Now my number 6 rye whiskey of 2023. Hemingway Rye Whiskey. This was one for me that absolutely blew me away right away. And what it is that Hemingway is doing, again, a new brand into 2023, hit us right out of the gate with this blended rye whiskey in rum season Oloroso sherry casks. At 100 proof, this thing drank, in terms of the complexity of it, much higher, much more along the lines of a flavor profile that you would get from a cask strength whiskey. This thing drank exactly like that. And with the amount of flavors that this had in it, it just simply blew me away. I felt that it was a truly special finished rye whiskey, and definitely had to be on my list of favorite whiskeys of 2023. So let's go ahead and take a look at my number 5 rye whiskey of 2023. This is the Hard Truth Sweet Mash Malted Rye. It is very difficult to put into words the richness and complexity of this whiskey at this age. Roughly in that 3-ish year range, what Brian and his team have done at Hard Truth to be able to produce a whiskey, again, at that age, to taste much older, much richer, really super complex notes that you get from this, but specifically their sweet mash malted rye really hit every major point for me when I'm looking to enjoy a rye whiskey. Absolutely fantastic. If you can find something from Hard Truth, specifically their sweet mash malted rye, do yourself a favor. I think you'll absolutely love it. This is my number 5 rye whiskey of 2023. Next up, my number 4 rye whiskey of 2023. Corbin Cash Barrel Strength Rye Whiskey. What this represents as a rye whiskey in the craft distillery genre is absolutely fantastic. And I don't want to just say that as a craft rye whiskey. This thing is a monster of a rye. And what it is again, 100% Merced rye at cask strength. Flavor profile of this is maybe going to be one of the more complex and unique ryes that you have I'll say maybe ever. It has a really strong rye grain to it, but what the complexity flavors that this thing have are absolutely ridiculous. And if you can find a cask strength rye whiskey from Corbin Cash, again, I think it's a must-have rye whiskey at your home, and would highly, highly encourage you to seek out what it is that Corbin Cash is doing. So this is coming in as my number 4 rye whiskey of 2023. So coming up next is my number 3 rye whiskey of 2023. My number 3 rye whiskey of 2023 goes to Sagamore Spirits, and this is specifically their 8-year rye. A blend of 2 different mash bills. Again, what it is that Sagamore has done, is doing, absolutely out of this world, fantastic whiskeys. I know they're working on some other things, but this specifically, their 8-year rye whiskey, hit all of the points of everything I truly, truly enjoy about a rye whiskey. Sweetness, the rye components, the richness, complexity. I know I mentioned a lot of that, but again, these whiskeys are all falling into those categories. And what it was that Sagamore brought us here in 2023, specifically their 8-year-old rye whiskey, absolutely nailed it with this one, and couldn't be happier to have this whiskey in my top 3 rye whiskeys of 2023. All right, we're coming down to it, and we're talking now about my number 2 rye whiskey of 2023. My number 2 rye whiskey of 2023 goes to Jack Daniel's, specifically their Jack Daniel's single barrel proof rye. What this has to offer at its value, the complexity, richness that this whiskey has, is almost second to none. And when you can find these, this just happens to be a backup bottle, have gone through another one already. But what this whiskey represents in today's day and age and today's whiskey market is maybe one of the best values you're going to find in all of whiskey. Everything that goes into the single barrel process comes from, again, the highest floor within their ricks. And when you taste that flavor profile, it quickly resonates, and you understand how special some of these whiskeys are. And this hit on every single one of those points. When I was first introduced to some of the Tennessee Tasters, then the following year when they released, I believe in 2020, their other single barrel proof rye, it felt like love at first taste. And what that represented from there on had me hooked on what it was that Jack Daniel's was doing with specifically their rye whiskeys. And again, my number 2 rye whiskey of 2023 goes to Jack Daniel's, and it being the single barrel proof rye whiskey. So we have come to what my number 1 rye whiskey of 2023 is. It surprised me more than maybe any whiskey throughout the entire year. And what exactly is my number 1 rye whiskey of 2023 goes to Found North. This is batch 006, the Second Summit, which was finished in a sherry butt cask. This whiskey, let me tell you, it will change your opinion of Canadian ryes. And what this whiskey again represents is nothing but the highest quality, passion behind the brand. These blends, Nick, his brother, and his team are doing some absolutely amazing things. And this is, again, me trying to bang the drum for what it is that Found North is doing, because the attention to detail, the passion, which translates over to the whiskeys that we're all experiencing, is absolutely incredible. And my number 1 whiskey of the year goes to Found North and the Second Summit, which is their rye finished in a sherry butt cask. Simply incredible. So there is my number 1 whiskey of 2023. I want to say a big thank you to each and every one of you for all of the support throughout 2023 and even prior to that. Thank you guys so much for all of the love, all of the support, all the comments, simply being there, watching the videos. I can't say thank you enough. So there you have it. There were my top 7 rye whiskeys of 2023. And with that being said, remember, it's about the journey and not the destination. We will see you in 2024. Cheers.